outside. They note that he seemed healthy. They ask if he's there, of his own free will. He says yes. And then Sheila tells them to get the fuck off her property.
But I'm sure they knew at that point. I'm sure his mom disclosed that he is developmentally challenged. I mean, really, I just feel like in that case, hey guy, you come with us. We're going to check some things out. But I mean, I guess they have to follow the law, which I guess like a real gray area is open to interpretation in my mind on the welfare checks and what they can and can't act on. But damn, I wish they would just pull him out of this insane situation. They know she's a freaking nutball.
Kenny is seen March 11th in what some would call the Walmart incident.
Oh, God, do tell.
Sheila dragged Kenneth to the customer service desk of a Walmart, saying that a woman had just attacked her husband inside the store. He's beaten up, bleeding. He has cuts on his face and body. He was sallow in appearance, yellow skin. He's like staring at the floor. He won't make eye contact with the women behind the customer service desk. Then Sheila said that he had been hit by a car in the parking lot.
Okay.
She starts threatening to sue Walmart. And the scene was so strange that employees are just baffled by what has happened. And they log the incident in a logbook.
I'm sure.
On March 17th, Sheila and Kenneth return to this Walmart store. Sheila was pushing him in a wheelchair. Kenneth looked terrible, as though he were in physical pain. He still has bruising. He's got cuts on his face. They're bleeding. He's slumped over in this chair. Sheila told store employees about the situation on the 11th.
Oh, so, I mean, he shouldn't still be bleeding from the situation on the 11th?
The women who worked there, again, asked, should we call police or get an ambulance for Kenneth? Because he looked so badly. I mean, he just looks terrible. And Sheila claimed she didn't need them to do that. She's a lawyer, a multimillionaire, owner of a big horse farm. She also said she had a medical background and she could treat his wounds. There was no need to call an ambulance. There was an officer in the store because the situation is just out of control and everyone is staring. I mean, it's a scene, right?
I'm sure it's a huge scene because that's what she likes to do.
It's a spectacle.
Yeah.
So there's this officer in the store and he comes over and he ends up snapping a photo of Kenneth.
He should have taken him and should have not let her leave with him.
Well, this was the last time anybody would see Kenneth alive. In the photograph, as I said, he's sitting in a wheelchair. He has 2 large cans, like gas cans, sitting in his lap. And Sheila purchased those that night while they were at Walmart. He's drooling. He won't make eye contact.
Oh, my God. Somebody, please, guys, call the damn ambulance. Tell her to go over there and sit her ass down. We're going to figure out what's going on here.
When Kenneth's mother is unable to reach her son again, she files another police report. Carolyn calls Sheila. She says that Kenneth has moved out. Sheila says he's no longer here. He moved out. He left.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Carolyn calls the cops. They go out to Sheila's farm. She allows the officers to come inside the house, and they can see for themselves that there's no Kenneth. He's not there. So they're walking around, checking things out. They see Kenneth's shoes in the house.
Ah, okay.
So that's the first red flag. If he's left, why are his shoes still here?
Yeah.
Outside, a fire is smoldering. There's like 2 burn barrels going. Upon investigation, officers note what look like human bones in the burn barrel.
Oh, okay. So now, what the hell? Okay.
A mattress and box springs are also outside, burned. When they ask Sheila about the bones, she says it's either from a rabbit or a pedophile.
Oh, my God.
Audio recordings would appear of Sheila torturing Kenneth, having him admit to sexual deviancies like pedophilia and incest. He can be heard vomiting in the background and crying. At one point, he passes out. Sheila had stabbed Kenneth to death and burned his body. On March 25th, 2 days after his mother made that report, and they come out to the farm, they see the bones. They come back to do a search. They have a search warrant. And when they're asking about Kenneth, Sheila says she murdered him.
So she just owned up to it.
She's taken into custody and questioned, but not yet arrested. By March 28th, she's still out free. She has $85,000 in cash on her person, and she hits the road. She dyes her hair red.
My God, how the hell do you leave some... I mean, once you see bones in a barrel that appear to maybe possibly be human, it seems like at that point you set up somebody, even if you can't search the house, you put somebody at the barrel. You're watching this. We're going to go get a search warrant. We're going to take this crazy-ass woman into custody.
An arrest warrant is issued. Well, I guess there's a whole thing. I mean, they have to get the search warrant. They have to take the bones. They have to test them to make sure that they're human.
I know.
There's a process to this, Dylan.
I understand, but what the fuck?
I know. An arrest warrant is issued for Sheila on April 1st, 2006, charging her with first-degree murder. A 3-week search of her farm turns up 3 human toes, neither of which belongs to Kenneth or Michael. And at this point, no one even knows that Michael has disappeared.
3 separate human toes from separate bodies. Or I guess their DNA in them.
I guess, but none of them match Kenneth or Michael, so they don't know who these toes belong to.
Oh my God.
A burned barrel with human bones, along with those charred pruning shears that are likely the murder weapon, and some hedge clippers are found tagged as evidence. They find blood stains inside the house. Michael's clothing is still in the home with blood on it. They find more human bones and teeth. The inside of the house is run wild with rabbits. Like, as we've mentioned, the house is decrepit. It's falling in. It's in disarray. There's fucking rabbits everywhere in the house.
Well, that's crazy.
They do a flush of the septic system, and they find Michael Deloge's birth certificate. Now, with no report of Michael missing, police are like, who is Michael Deloge?
Oh, so it's all starting to come out.
But Sheila is long gone at this point. She hitched a ride with a stranger in exchange for sex.
Oh, imagine that.
The next day, she has sex with another man in Boston. And by this time, she's, as I mentioned, dyed her hair red. She's cut it. However, her face is plastered on newspapers, on the television, all over New England. This man that she meets up with in Boston, she's kind of like staying with him.
Oh, she's like, hey, my name's Deborah.
Yeah.
And it's nice to meet you. You like my red hair? Yeah, it's pretty.
She's been having sex with him, and so she's been shacking up at his house for a couple of days.
Yeah, I brought this tiny vagina with me.
He sees this TV report and recognizes her. He turns her in.
Well, I don't blame him. I bet he's like, what the hell?
When she's finally arrested after spending about 3 weeks on the lam, Sheila paints a different picture for law enforcement, claiming that Kenneth was a pedophile.
But that doesn't, I mean, I'm not for pedophiles, and I don't think these men were. I think that's all in her head to rationalize what her abuses and wanting to kill them. But you don't have the right to be judge and jury, not according to the law.
According to Sheila, she went to bed on March 21st, and when she woke up, Kenneth was gone. She burned the mattress after learning she'd slept on it with a child molester. Her trial was interesting. Sheila claimed she was insane. Her lawyer said Sheila was not evil, but merely a victim herself who'd acted out on all the horrible things that had happened to her. A collection of audio recordings were played for the jury that, you could hear Sheila abusing, berating, terrorizing these victims, forcing them to admit to being pedophiles, sexual deviants, talking about incest. I mean, just every horrible sexual thing you can imagine.
But she's actively torturing them.
Yes.
Yeah, and a victim's going to tell you whatever the hell you want to hear. That's why torture's not that great at getting information.
A forensic psychologist testified that Sheila had a schizophrenic affect disorder or a delusional disorder that caused her to mistakenly kill these men because she believed they were pedophiles. Ultimately, Sheila was deemed sane enough to stand trial. And though she did have an obsession with pedophiles and behaviors common with a personality disorder, it was not enough to say she was insane.
No, I think it's safe to say that she has a borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder. But there was too much calculation in this, right? This wasn't out of control. It wasn't one time. She set all this up.
Right. And that's part of why she wasn't able to use insanity as a defense. Now, during interviews with doctors, she understood right from wrong, but she tried to explain away her bad deeds.
She's like, well, I thought he was a pedophile, okay? And so I beat and tortured him and, mentally abused him for a very long time. And finally, I found the truth.
Sheila believed that she had done no wrong by murdering these two men. She referred to herself again as an avenging angel. She was there to be a protector, a champion for victims, not realizing the irony in that she was victimizing people too.
Yeah, and sadly, she did it's kind of masked by all her crazy stuff she did later. She did suffer some very horrible, horrible abuse as a very young child, being passed around to her father's friends. So, that's what helped create this in her mind, I guess, right?
After 5 weeks of testimony, on June 28th, 2008, she was found guilty. A judge handed down 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Her victims were never fully recovered, believed to have been scattered on the farm. There were 2, possibly maybe 3 victims, because again, they found toes that did not belong to Michael or Kenneth. But honestly, there could have been more.
There very well could have been more, because it sounded like she was, getting different guys with quite a lot of frequency. But, actually, a burn barrel is a fairly efficient way to burn a body because it reflects the heat back. Now, open pit, not very good way to do it, but even something as simple as a burn barrel can get the intense heat to actually disintegrate most of the bones. So there's no telling.
Sheila LaBarre took advantage of men, stripping them of dignity, self-worth, and ultimately their lives. Sheila is an evil monster. I think we can all agree on that. But is she a serial killer? Technically, she'd need 1 more victim to be considered a serial killer because we only know of 2. So technically, she'd have to have 3 victims. But no doubt, Sheila is a violent predator. And if she hadn't been caught, I think she would still be preying on vulnerable people as a black widow of sorts.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to say. Either there's more victims we don't know about, or if she hadn't been caught, there would have been more victims. So, she's right there on the cut. You can pretty much call her a damn serial killer. She would have been either way, or she might be. We don't even know.
So this has been the story of Sheila LaBarre.
Oh, my God. Why have people not been talking about her crazy ass?
Yeah, she's something else, that's for sure.
She called herself an Avenging Angel. She was a monster. And she wasn't going to let anything stop her from acting out what she needed to in her brain. She's scary. Man, baby, I'm glad I didn't meet her when I was online dating. I'm glad I met you instead.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, she'd been like, just come up here to my horse farm and, get away. It's a change of scenery. Heard you're good with your hands. You can work on my horse fences. And just come on up. I got the smallest vagina in the world. You can check that out. And then next thing you know, she's browbeating me and making me confess to being a pedophile.
She had a very warped sexuality. On the one hand, she's incredibly hypersexual.
Yep.
Sleeping around, having affairs with multiple men.
Voyeuristic?
Yes.
Is it exhibitionist?
Yes.
Yeah.
But then she also, on the other token, has this weird obsession with pedophiles and that, somehow sex is like making these people deviants and...
Yeah, and she had
But she also seems like she's a sexual deviant.
Yeah.
So I kind of don't get that.
No, I don't know how you equate those two things in your head.
The 2 resources that I used for today's story, Wicked Intentions is a book by Kevin Flynn, all about Sheila LaBarre, and then also The Burn Farm by Michael Benson. So you can check those out. And of course, there's a lot of different newspaper resources out there. We also watched an episode of, I think it's called Master Manipulator.
Yeah, because she definitely was that.
That had an episode on Sheila LaBarre.
Yeah, and there's quite a bit of stuff on YouTube if you want to see her
trial footage.
Her
sister Lynn.
Yes, that was some interesting testimony.
Describing their childhood.
describing the fact that she thought she was a reincarnated witch.
Talk about that a little bit, Dylan. You were watching an interview.
Yeah, that was actual testimony from the stand.
Oh, it was testimony. Okay.
Yeah, from her